right. What is up, Millennial Nation? This is Millennial Nation Worldwide, and I am the OG Millennial coming at you with some stuff about Drewski and some stuff about Jake Paul, right? Both these guys have been in the news. One did some stuff, and the other one is responding to some stuff, right? Anybody who has been watching YouTube or Twitter as of late, right, or X as they're known, has been noticing the big thing happening with Drewski and his interpretation uh, and mockery, kind of in a way, of Charlie Kirk's wife and the way she acts, right, and her mannerisms and whatnot. And so that's been taking a lot of precedent here in America. Uh, it's funny because now Jake Paul is issuing a response and throwing out the intriguing question of what would happen if he did the same thing for the opposite race, right? If so, he's been in contact with some makeup artists apparently who are willing to paint the sky black, and so it's going to be an interesting contrast, right? Like we got Drewski, who has been portraying right a couple different white people now with the white paint, and it's provoking the Caucasians in America. Right, the whites are getting mad, and they're getting mad because it was just like 4 or 5 years ago they were told that they're no longer allowed to do blackface. Right, so I could kind of understand, from the Caucasian perspective of like, hey man, y'all just told us a few years ago that we can't do this anymore, but here you are doing it, right? So I kind of get that. Maybe that's the half white in me. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of compassion for them, but I kind of get it a little bit, right? Like, but at the same time, it I don't see what Drewski did or like what the Wayans brothers did in the movie White Chicks as being offensive and hatred towards the white culture itself, right? Because they were targeting specific instances, right, in mannerisms and lifestyle characteristics of a person, right? Which is very similar to what happens on the flip side when people do the black paint, right? Like the best example that everybody's using right now is the Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder, right? When he portrayed the black man and he was doing the black paint, right? And I guess there have been other people like let's see, people are talking about Kimmel, right? Jimmy Kimmel apparently did like a black paint where he did Carl Malone, I think, and as far back as you could think in entertainment, right? White man has been painting himself to portray other races and cultures, and not necessarily in a hatred way, but just in a way of, hey, we're going to try and save some money, right? If you're going to make a Western movie in the 1970s, right? And instead of looking for a bunch of Indians, just paint a bunch of white people brown, right? It's the same thing when they were doing blackface back in the day, but it is in context as well, right? Context has to be right. And for the context to be right in this particular situation, you got to look at the broader context. And if you're going to be mad at Drewski for what he did, I would think that you would have more of a right to be mad at what he did as far as impersonating a woman, right? As opposed to the race itself, right? Like the female community, if anybody should be mad, right? Because here's this man who's portraying like a woman, right? And acting like a girl, right? And so if anything, I thought the women would be upset about that one. But if Jake Paul were to do a response, I wouldn't be mad, right? Like, and I've been listening to a bunch of people. I've been listening to a lot of people on YouTube giving their um, what is it, interpretation, right, of what would happen if Jake Paul did black paint. And it was very interesting because a lot of people were like, hey, if you do it, just do it in the right context, like if you're gonna go out there and you're gonna do like a comedy skit where you're making something funny about something, then it's all good. And that's the type of comedy that I personally like anyway. So for me, it's like, yeah, you could go do something like that, but whenever you do something like that on either side, yeah, you got to watch that little razor's line that you're walking on, because it doesn't take too much to go and start being like, oh, Aunt Jemima this and Aunt Jemima that, while you're doing a two-step with your big red lips and the black paint. Like, yeah, that could kind of be, I could understand how that can be taken out of context, right? Like, as opposed to Robert Downey Jr., who did a great job in the role Tropic Thunder, right? Like his role as a white man being a black man was on point, right? And so there it is. And because of that, like, yeah, if you're doing it in the right context of comedy, acting, satire, even, right? Like, you shouldn't have any type of limitations placed on you, right? Because in comedy, right? Like that's the place where you should be free, right? And once I think you start having limitations placed on you and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, you know, they're taking away your freedom, right? So they want to try and protect their freedoms by taking away someone else's freedom. So um, what Drewski did was hilarious. I didn't know Erica Kirk, right? I don't know too much about her. I didn't see any of her interviews, but after the skit came out, I went and did some search to see what he was talking about, right? To see if he was accurate, and he was pretty accurate. Like when I look at this lady, something's off, and that's all I would say with my personal opinion on that. But Jake Paul, if you're gonna do something in response, do it, bro. 2026, most people don't care about that, and it would just add to the great distraction. So, um, speaking of like Jake Paul, Jake Paul and Drewski, what they are disruptors, right? And there's a big group of disruptors that are doing just that. They're going out there and they're trying to create chaos. And the purpose behind it, I don't know, but I know that it generates clicks and views, and that's equivalent to money. So it's happening for the clicks and the views, right? And if we're gonna take a big young millennial like Jake Paul, right, and we're gonna take a big young millennial like Drewski, and we're gonna put them against each other, right? Like oh, I don't know. That's one of those things where it can be difficult, right? Because in the long run, it's great, right? By putting Jake Paul and Drewski together, you're going to create content, and you can create long-term content, and you could get rich off that content. So, from a businessman's perspective, I get it, but from like more of a pragmatic sense, I get a little worried because the tensions are already so high right now between the different groups and classes of people in America that this is just throwing gasoline on the fire. And of all times to do it, like right now before we're having midterm elections. So go figure, right? Like if but yeah, ultimately, like I don't mind it. Like I like the content being created because it's new. And if they keep it in the right satire and keep it comedical, right? And on the comedy lines, then they could go very far with it. We could start bringing back like it would be like comedy battles, but like you could go race against race again and start breaking down those comfort zones, right? Because I remember growing up in the 80s and in the 90s, blacks could talk about whites could talk about blacks, everybody was talking about everybody. And if you didn't like it, then you didn't listen, right? And you got that option. But ultimately, yeah, like we can't put limitations on comedy. What Drewski did, right? Like wasn't the first time he had done it. In fact, the first time I got real familiar with Drewski was when he did the NASCAR scene, right? And I kind of thought he went too far as a white guy in that when he like did the spitting motion towards the black guy when the black guy was walking by, right? Like I thought that was kind of like, damn, that's fucked up, right? Like, does that really happen at NASCAR, right? Like, are the white people in 2026 really doing that and still have that attitude, right? Like, I don't know, maybe, but that in itself wasn't too harsh either, right? Because like he was portraying like a NASCAR lover, and he portrayed that role in a comedic sense, right? And this fool came with receipts, man. He's a half breed, similar to myself, right? Like when he dropped that picture of his grandpa and showed that he was half white, it kind of frees him up to be able to talk about white people, right? Like that's his people, right? Like like Jake Paul, I could speak up for Jake Paul and like, yeah, man, I get it, right? Like they told the white people 4 or 5 years ago they can't do blackface anymore, and now black people are doing whiteface. Why can't white people do blackface, right? Like, yeah, I get that. I get that logic, Jake Paul. And so again, yeah, whatever your response is, if you do decide to go through with it and do the makeup, like, yeah, go the Drewski route. Be Drewski. I've been seeing a whole bunch of AI images of it already, and it seems like it would be pretty funny, right? And let's keep it out of the boxing ring, though, right? Like Jake Paul working with MVP, they filled up that fight card, man. It's the Ronda Rousey, Gina Serrano fight card with Nate Diaz and Mike Perry and a bunch of other fighters. I'll come on here with that list later on. Yeah, and I guess I could yeah, I'll do it like on a fight night. Yeah, tomorrow I'll probably do because it's Friday right now. I'm tired. I'm a little tired. I could probably keep going, but because of the editing, I'm just gonna do it tomorrow, and I'll edit this and put this out tonight. But I got a whole bunch of fighting information, right? Like MVP filled out the fight card, like I was saying, for the Netflix fight. Tyson Fury's got a fight this weekend. Deontay Wilder just had a fight a couple weekends ago, right? We got an AEW pay per view coming up this weekend, Dynasty. Next week we got WWE WrestleMania, right? We got so many different things, right? Pacquiao still coming up at the end of the year. Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, hopefully, right? That Mike Tyson fight, Mike Tyson Floyd Mayweather, I don't think is happening, right? Like the one that was supposed to be happening over there in the Republic of Congo. So, but I'll get on here tomorrow and talk about that, and maybe some other stuff, right? Malcolm in the Middle came out. I gotta check that out because I was a big Malcolm in the Middle fan. I was gonna do a little bit of talk about Kanye, right? I probably could talk about Kanye right now, then I'll close up with this because it was something we were talking about on Technically Speaking, the other podcast that I do on Mondays, live Monday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right? Tune in on YouTube and Instagram. And we were talking about a whole bunch of different things. And one of the things we started off talking about was the Kanye West concert that he did at the Intuit Dome, and how much money it generated, right? The stage that he did with the Globe. And we were mentioning at the time, because it was still news, about how Kanye was going to have a tour that he was going to be doing in London, and how Pepsi had just pulled their sponsorship. And now that the news has come out, 4 days later, here it is Thursday, and they canceled the show completely, right? Like, I didn't know that Kanye was supposed to headline all 3 nights, apparently. But they not only said he can't do the show, but they said, man, you can't even come to our country, man. The fool Kanye West is banned from London, right? So let that settle in for a second, and let that remind you that, yes, though here in America you have the freedom of speech to say and even in some cases do what you want, but because words have consequences, they can come back and bite you in the ass. And I think I even said that on the last video that I made, right? Like, and that's what happened. Kanye West had made some remarks about the Jewish community and compared them to, was considered to be a Nazi sympathizer, right, by some of the merchandise that he chose to make, shirts with swastikas on it and making songs titled I'm a Nazi, right? Like, in America, you could do that all day long and still sell out concerts like at Intuit Dome, right? Like, America will take that money and musicians will take that money and taxpayers are paying for it all, right? So, this goddamn place. But you can't do that everywhere, right? And so consequences caught up to Kanye in the long run, and it's going to hurt his bank account, right? So many sponsors pulled their sponsorships for this show, the wireless show that they were doing, that they just canceled it altogether. All right, Pepsi pulled theirs, and along with that, Rockstar got pulled, Rockstar Energy Drink, and then there's like 3 or 4 more things. I got like liquors were being pulled, like Captain Morgan and whoever owns the Captain Morgan brand, they pulled their sponsorship and whatnot. So words have consequences, man, and let this be a reflection of that. You can't expect the rest of the world to be as understanding as we are here in America, right? Because the rest of the world has to fall in line. And you can't do and say whatever you want in other places in the world like you can here, right? And get away with it. Get away with it without consequences. Yeah, right. There's consequences for that shit, man. So that's my advice for the millennial nation, right? For us millennials, right? Here in America, especially, like, let us use our freedom of speech, right? And but let us use it in a sense that's not going to come back in the long run and bite us in the ass, right? Because the people have the right to ban you, just like you have the right to say what you want, right? So you disrespect me, then you're not gonna come on my platform, right? And that's how life works. So yeah, that's been a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit of stuff tomorrow though too. So tune in throughout the week. We'll be dropping a whole bunch of clips here on Millennial Nation worldwide. What we need you to do is like, comment, and subscribe. right? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, it's all the same. Millennial Nation Worldwide. Yeah. Peace.